Hi, guys. Welcome back to Hear Me Out. I'm E.
I'm D.
And today we're going to discuss the Real Housewives of Potomac, season
8?
7000 or
Oh,
8,
okay. All right.
episode 742 or 17. This episode was called Fashion Showdown, but there wasn't no showdown. They just left us on a cliffhanger again. So, so we're going to read a Vulture article, which we always do. The reference article will be in our description box. And of course, we're going to give you our opinions because that's what we do best. So let's get started.
Okay, so the article is by Shamira Ibrahim, who we love, obviously. She writes the most hilarious recaps. But her title is The Real Housewives of Potomac Recap: A Nightmare on Sesame Street.
Oh,
All right. So, as an avowed student of the reality arts and sciences, I am quite familiar with the cast members' various attempts at quick cash grabs. I witnessed when the Vanderpump Rules cast jam-packed their podcast with ads, sold silly screen t-shirts with catchphrases, and made merch for a sandwich shop that will never open in the wake of Scandival. I didn't mind when Portia started selling sheets and extensions you can buy for yourself on AliExpress at a significant discount. I got the black girl luxury lifestyle vibe she was going for. I almost entertained buying iconic drag queen Tamisha Iman sneakers until Bob the drag queen said he still hadn't received his pair after a few months. I may have moseyed my way into a Century 21 to see what the tea was on Sonia Morgan's closing line to help keep everyone's favorite floozy on top of her bills. All to say, I am not above supporting a Bravo celebrity short-term money flip if the gimmick is done well. The reality is that few Bravo cast members will develop the next skinny girl, lover boy, or whatever other fluke turns into a big idea. Most of the girls will have to get their QVC on and end up with a brief uptick with attention on whatever the hell Amazon Live is supposed to be while they hawk their wares. Still, I will respect a genuine effort at putting a foot forward toward women's financial autonomy. But Robin opening a new franchise of a membership only facial store question mark. I don't really know how big Glow 30 is, but I'm rooting for its success and perhaps the opportunity it provides Juan to find some fulfillment as he remains between jobs at the moment. Wendy finally completing the pilot of her talk show. I was confused about what the $50,000 Eddie provided her on top of her existing budget was for, but hey, I would love to be proven wrong about this endeavor. Giselle and Ashley, two of the tackiest ladies on a cast full of ASOS discount pools and garish design accessories, starting what seems to be an attempt at a couture athleisure line.
there's nothing to tour about it.
Giselle's namesake, Beyonce Giselle knows, tried it with Ivy Park with Adidas support, and that collaboration still ended. So it is baffling what the duo thinks will come of their venture. On and off, we have seen the two women chattering about workout clothes this season as they rifle through various garish polyester fabrics. Imagine my shock and awe when the line debuted and we were treated to poorly tailored bodysuits, a silver hooded cape paired with pink shorts and baby heels, white crop tops emblazoned with their logo alongside Taylor slacks and faux corsets. As Karen quipped, it is more on the lines of booty club nightclub wear. Candace rightfully referred to it as elevated Alibaba. The snark that flew is nothing new for this crew, especially since most picked one thing they would buy to support. So I couldn't help but observe that the styling and pieces for the show are so thematically incoherent that if Robin and her three-piece brassiere suit getup had told us she was originally supposed to be walking that runway, I would have easily believed her. My misgivings over Ivy Blossom aside, I give props to Giselle and Ashley for executing their business idea and making the sartorial choice to take their foot off of Lululemon's neck. A particular shout out to Gizelle, who was under immense pressure due to her father's health crisis. For those who don't know, her father, Curtis, ended up passing not much later in July. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I don't want to cry. Okay. Well, before I go any further, that was a lot.
Yeah.
But this was hilarious so far. It was hard to get through that, guys. And normally we can get through these fine, but that was just a whole lot of funny. Okay, really quick. What did we think of the GNA fashion show?
It was a hot mess, a disaster, a catastrophe. I give it a C minus for execution. No, actually, I'm gonna give it a B. At least they put out something.
Yeah.
This whole season, they spoke about it on episode, I don't know what. We saw them go to the fabric store and they have a runway show by episode 17. So, hey, there's kudos there.
Yeah.
Somebody had to sew the stuff, fit the stuff.
Right.
I don't know if they skipped the design portion of it all. Or if one of I think it was Candace who said, did Gizelle just design all of these things? But I mean,
yeah,
that is not gym clothes, or it's not gym clothes that I would wear. I'm too busy sweating. The gym is dirty, or like CrossFit places like I go to, they're dirt. Like, who wants to be like half naked doing these things? Unless, you're trying to,
impress
some attention, impress. That's a better way of saying it. Or maybe you just like it. I don't know. I'm not judging. But I can see who the real friends are, because they'll be like, oh, I like some pieces. Oh, that was cute. I'm like, girl, you lying. But you know what? You're a good friend for at least supporting something that you remotely like, or just you're going to wear it once to appease me. And I can appreciate that. But nobody liked that. I didn't like it. Wendy, I was awfully surprised. I don't know what she spent 50 grand on. I don't know why she needed to have a food platter there. She's there to work, not to eat. Neither are her. But the premise of the show, it seemed like something I would watch, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was just like a round table. I forget what they were discussing, but I'm like, I think I would watch that, honestly. If it's like an intellectual, conversation, which this is what Wendy should be doing, to be honest. Not being on Real Housewives. She doesn't fit in at all.
That's true.
And I think somebody else had a business venture, didn't they? Oh, Robin?
Robin business.
Don't get me started with Robin. The fact that Juan said, what's your budget? And she said, good question, sent my little heart, I don't know, to circumnavigate the world. As an accountant, that rocked my nerves, so much so that I had to stop watching it for like 10 minutes. I'm like, how are they just going into business, not knowing their budget, not knowing if they're going to be successful? If it's the same business that Mia looked at the finances for, I still don't trust it, because look where Mia is now. Hello? What? And Juan, he's over there chipper because he just wants a job. So, like, is anybody making sound decisions? Luckily for Robin, it seems like she has, I don't want to say a knack for business, but she's been lucky with the endeavors that she's partaken in so far. So hopefully she's successful. I hope Gizelle and GNA is successful, and Ashley. I hope Wendy is successful. That's not the point. I'm making fun of them. But why are they doing that? Or why is Bravo doing this to the housewives, making them seem incompetent in business, or making them look bad in that way? Like, that's something that I don't like.
I don't necessarily think that it's like, I don't think all the blame can fall to Bravo. I mean, these are adult women who are making the decision to follow through with some of these things. I thought that it was interesting that Robin is doing this whole thing, because they hadn't mentioned it, right? Like, I think she talked about it in the beginning of the season, and they hadn't mentioned it up until this past episode.
business.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, because I remember she mentioned a franchise that she wanted to franchise something. So I think yeah, it should be the same one. And as far as like Juan or whatever, I didn't take that whole little scenario in that manner. I just thought she was being maybe a little condescending, as though like, oh, good job trying to like actually put in some effort, or trying to like play a role or something. Or maybe she was joking, like, yeah, like, good question, ha ha ha. I don't know, like that's how I kind of took it, because they have such a strange like relationship that I really can't like fully comprehend. So I don't try. So I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like took it like in that way. And then as far as like Wendy's talk show thing, it the premise I love, the subject matter up my alley, but the set, the way in which they are like dolled up, like as if they're gonna be going out for cocktails, and the set literally looked like they were about to go off for cocktails, that just seemed weird to me. Why was
Mm-hmm.
it so dark? And then I think it's a little awkward having them all just seated there, and it's like, everybody's like trying to like have a straight back, and like it just looked weird. I think the placement. Whereas like, because even like, let's say if she wanted it to be kind of like a more like a girlfriends having conversations around the coffee table kind of vibe, that's not, girlfriends don't sit like that. Like they're comfortable, and I don't really feel like any of those women looked comfortable seated the way that they were seated. At
Mm-hmm.
least like with some of these other shows, you have like a table, large table right in front of them that they can like have a coffee mug or their hands on top of. This just looked a little bit awkward for me, but that's just like me nitpicking at like these little things. I do love the concept of what it is she's trying to do, and I agree that's literally what she should be doing, like,
Yeah.
entirely. Um, GNA. So I I when they say like, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stick to that. I'm gonna go with that, because I don't I kudos for putting on the show, yeah, like you said, for sure, because
Yeah.
Gizelle was going through it, and now even more so, I'm like heartbroken. Um, so definitely like, oh, and then I do want to also give props to Ashley though, because like Giselle said, she picked up the ball and ran with it and was able to get things done and executed. And I think that that's probably a side of Ashley that we should see more of, right? The working woman. This is who we've been looking for. Like I think we discussed it during a previous recap that we did, where it's like Ashley's storyline could go in other directions, better directions, right? The single mom aspect, all of that. This could be part of that. The fact that she was able to, try to get all this stuff done and then accomplish it, whatever we think about the line aside, she
Mhm.
still executed this, and and it didn't seem to have like any kind of issues or anything like that. So it was successful. So I think that should be something maybe that they should focus on with Ashley, instead of Ashley having coronas, Ashley talking to Michael, not talking to Michael. Like,
Mhm.
because I think that if they're going to stick with this whole like Michael Darby thing in her, there's no point for her to be in the show anymore either.
Yeah.
Because I can't even say, oh, she's like stirring the pot. Like it's been episodes and episodes since she's done anything outlandish. She's
Mhm.
been very like tame. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it. Let's
Mhm.
continue with the recap. Okay. So, in any case, the real drama of the event comes from none other than last season's Deborah, who was so disruptive to the group dynamics that she comes with her own eerie musical tags from the editing bay. As Wendy stated, it is no surprise that Ashley brought her to the shindig, her penchant for chaos and disorder to distract everyone from interrogating her own life is well documented. What is genuinely delusional is Deborah's belief that she should, one, be welcomed back with open arms, and two, be owed an apology for Candace's publicly disapproving of her. She snakes around the room in a plain Oh, she said plain. In a plain Versace bodysuit and ill-fitted pants,
Ooh.
demanding the cast engage with her. Mostly they politely oblige and keep the peace at Gizelle and Ashley's big showcase. As usual in this cast, things got funky after the drinks flowed and the cameras went down. Deborah found herself a stash of liquid courage and demanded that Candace acknowledge she publicly insulted Deborah, who made ridiculous claims that Candace's husband flirted with her, which was proven false. There are many situations in which Candace deserves reproach, but calling Deborah a Sesame Street character is funny and far from one of those situations. Deborah is not owed an apology. Deborah is not owed a time. I think this sentence is a little strange. Deborah is not so much owed a letter and a number of day. Despite this, Deborah couldn't contain her frustration with Candace, and the argument escalated into fisticuffs that have since gone viral. It's sad and pathetic, and I hope that Kiarna is not unfairly penalized in her freshman run for handling the evil invasion of a hobgoblin. Next week, this long tortured journey of a season finally ends. Everyone's breathes out a big sigh of relief. It's the season finale next week. Thank God. Whew.
I wasn't ready, but I guess I am.
Well, before we get to the cherry blossoms, what do we think about Deborah and this whole situation? And is there a situation? Like, I'm confused.
But that happened. What was it, last season or 2 seasons ago with Happy Eddie?
Yeah, I think it was like a season or two ago. It might have been at the beginning of last season.
Probably.
Yeah.
But this just proves that the storylines in Potomac are whack at this point, and they need to do better. Because if they're bringing a storyline for somebody who's a non-relevant person, like
A non-housewife.
a non-housewife, it's not even like it's Charisse or somebody that we know. It's just this Sesame Street girl, which I mean, that's what I call her because that's what she looks like. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. But I'm like, what are we arguing about? It's not even a valid argument. Like, nobody's even talking about her this season. Like, where did this come from? It doesn't make any sense.
It's
And Wendy has said things also.
Mhm.
So why is she targeting Candace?
Because Wendy's the one that is married to the man that she made fun of.
Uh-huh.
So she can't play victim because she's the one who kind of started the crap with Wendy. Versus Candace, she can play the victim with Candace. Like, oh, you said some stuff, da 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 da. Nobody can throw it in her face that she said anything about Candace, right?
Mhm.
But she started some stuff about Happy Eddie. We all know him as Happy Eddie now because of Sesame Street. Like,
Well, Happy Eddie is using the name Happy Eddie
oh,
to him.
I'm gonna get to that in a second because I have some thoughts. But yeah. Okay, let me just say this. I don't care. I don't like there. I was waiting to see what happens. You know how they do like the sneak peek for the following episode.
They
And
did.
they didn't. No, they didn't. And I was like, what the hell? For 2 seconds, maybe a split second. Then I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't care. Like, because I really just like, I didn't. I'm like, who and what? No, thank you. It just, why? Like, why?
I don't care what happens, but I care what happened. Like, why is everybody screaming and we can't see it? Like, are glasses being thrown? Is Candace fighting again? Like, is this like another Monique situation? Like, that's the cliffhanger that I have. I don't care about Deborah and whatever she has going on. She's not
Yeah.
a housewife. Like, I don't know why they're trying to make her relevant. Bring Kiarna back.
Maybe Kiarna.
I like Kiarna.
Kiarna.
And NECA, we need to X her. And
Even think about her once in this recap.
well, because the whole recap of NECA's situation was a little bit awkward and I think a little intimate.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I didn't see it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a little too weird.
It was odd.
But who cares about Deborah and what she has going on? And if Candace is actually throwing drinks or having a fight or getting into another altercation, Bravo just needs to let her go because she's too problematic. And as we saw, the things that I sent you on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
she's out here doing interviews
Mm.
and
Vlogs.
going to the blogs, saying, her preferences about the children that she wants to have. I'm not going to go too much into it because that brings a whole other topic of like preferences, colorism. Is there colorism? Uh, XYZ.
Mm.
So, and she's here talking about Robin going to the thing, but I see Candace all over. So I don't even understand. I think she's just problematic. I don't think she knows what she wants. She's over there crying about wanting a baby, but she's not having a baby.
I will like the last thing I'll say before we get to the cherry blossoms is that scene upset me
Yeah.
because I was like, first, obviously I know that like the whole therapy session was not filmed. You can tell, right? It was edited, but it seemed so. It was poorly edited to make it seem like all the therapist said was one phrase, and all of a sudden she
Yeah.
clarity, and that's not how therapy works. And secondly, to it's something that always happens, and it frustrates me because that's not a good way to put things, but it's this whole situation and scenario that like, oh, because I'm ambitious in my career and da 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 da, then I can't be a mom, or I feel guilty because I'm, this is that's not a healthy narrative to put out there either. Like, for many women, it's not easy to have children, and I don't think it's right to shame them, because it kind of felt that way, to like shame them for having careers, for wanting to have careers, for being driven and ambitious, and for choosing to put motherhood on hold. And in her way of discussing it during that scene, it just made it feel like it was very um like just wrong, like, oh my god, I did such a terrible thing putting off motherhood. And it's like, that doesn't seem right to me. um Obviously she's entitled to feel how she wants to feel about it, but I just think the way it was presented,
Mm-hmm.
it was upsetting, because it's like, so many women are, well, all of us really are told what we need and not do with our bodies and all that stuff, and how like we should be having kids, and we should be like doing this and doing that. Life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation is still high. We gotta work.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that was just like something that I didn't care for, the way in which that was kind of portrayed,
Mm-hmm.
especially because she's an affluent woman. So she doesn't have to be doing some of the things that she's doing. So again, she's making these choices. So for her to kind of make it seem as though these choices were such a negative thing, ma'am, you have a husband that you could be trying to have a child with, or you could be doing IVF with, and you're choosing to put it on hold. I don't necessarily think it's because, oh, my career this, my career that, because just last season you were complaining to him that he was never home, that you were never seeing him. So, like, now he's doing that. Now he's complaining that he never sees you and everything. So it's like really, I feel like there was just a lot of mixed messages with it, especially considering what we saw last season and all that. And then it also reminded me that like they touched on her IVF. I think it was like she began IVF, she did something, I don't know if it was last season, and it was just like a brief thing. It wasn't, they didn't really dive more into it, and those are storylines that work better for her than the drama she consistently finds herself in. But anyway, that's my rant about Candace. Let me get to these cherry blossom. Or
Wait,
did you want to say something?
well, that scene that you're talking about, I really didn't interpret it that way. I mean, maybe her delivery is always wrong. But it was more so, I think, questions that women have all the time is like, well, did I make the right choice? It's either, you had kids and you wish you waited, or you waited and you got where you want to be. And it's like, well, did I do that right? Should it have been sooner? That's the way I interpreted it.
Yeah. No, I can
And I
see
think
that.
that's the way she meant it to
Yeah.
come across. So I don't
I
think
can
it
see
was.
that, but I think it was just like the way the session maybe was
Yeah.
edited that made it seem so odd. And
Mm,
that's why like I took it in that manner. Because
yeah.
yeah, no, like I know what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. But this the whole session, it was just kind of like literally he said one sentence and then yeah, estaba llorando, and she was like, "Oh yeah, no, this is what I want." Okay. Like
Yeah, that was a little weird. I was like, "What? He only had to say one thing?" Like,
yes. That's
yeah.
what I was very confused by. And then because the other thing too is that so she said, right, like, oh, the guilt of did I wait too long and all that stuff. But then he didn't talk about that. He talked about fear. And then that all of a sudden was her clarity moment. I was like, wait, that's not what you said earlier. You didn't mention you were afraid. You were just talking about your career. How does this correlate? So
Mhm.
anyway, that was a little confusing for me. And it was just like upsetting overall because I think there's so many issues that are going on in the world right or in this country right now regarding women's rights and all that it just felt one of those things where it's like why kind of push a certain kind of narrative that like you know
You know,
to make other women feel guilty.
I'm kind of torn because we discussed that housewives should sometimes focus on, let's say, Ashley and her business endeavors or being a
Mhm.
single mom. Like, what's the line here? It's like Real Housewives, and we want the drums, like dumb stuff, to just watch like mindless TV, or
Yeah.
should they mix in, these things? Let's say IVF journeys. At least NECA's going through with it.
Yeah.
So IVF journeys, like let's say the Grand Dame starting her perfume line, or GNA, getting more of an insight because we just saw fabric picking and all of a sudden there's a fashion show. We didn't see anything in between. Or
Yeah.
we see Robin trying to open this place up, but she don't know her budget. Like, what do we want?
A balance
A
because
balance.
there was and I know that I think I've mentioned her several times this season.
Uh-huh.
But I think of Monique and I remember the balance and the issues she had, right, with her home life and her husband wanting her to be more at home, but her trying to find her independence and also be a working woman and trying to do different things and all that. That was compelling. I think that was relatable. No matter what kind of money they have, no matter what zip code they're living in, it was relatable that she's there trying to take care of these kids, but she's also trying to make time for herself and she's trying to be a wife, but she's also trying to like be a businesswoman. There were different aspects and facets to her that I think were very relatable. And so her storyline was one that really resonated with people
Mhm.
because she brought drums. We know she brought drums, but she also brought real plot lines, real stories that were not they didn't feel so concocted. They didn't feel so, and I think that and now we know now, right? Like that her and her husband ended up filing for divorce, I believe. Um
Mhm.
so there were probably the beginnings of some cracks there to things. And so I think when they gloss over the fact that Ashley's going through a divorce, but instead of really diving into that, it's more along the lines of people like, "Oh, Ashley, why haven't you signed yet? Ashley, why are you still? Are you a gold digger?" Like, there's
Yeah.
not a lot of like discussion into like, okay, what's Ashley's game plan for after all of this, right?
Mhm.
So Ashley is a chaos demon, but Ashley hasn't been much of a chaos demon lately. It's just been more of along these like flat lines of whatever is going on with her and Michael. But even like Giselle, we can't get anything out of her because I don't want to talk about it. That was something else. Like when they did the confessional,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, really, y'all ain't even gonna try to push like at all.
Mhm.
I mean, I get that it's a difficult thing, but once again, like I always say, it's the relatability. Right now, you guys go watch our video that we did on aging pop stars, whether it's graceful or not, including JT and J-Lo. The reason why I bring that up is because you have right now this backlash against J-Lo because she doesn't seem relatable. And there are different things she could be doing to really humanize herself to people, and I feel like that's what Giselle's issue is. She's not relatable. When you see her with her kids, with her daughters, she becomes relatable. But as we've talked about, she can't be with her daughters 24/7 on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then this could have been a very good way to bring Gizelle into a new storyline, right? Into another version of her that maybe could have really humanized her to people instead of how we feel, or have felt, that she should be out the show. There's not really much going on with her anymore.
What did you think about Wendy saying, well, my mom was in the hospital and I don't feel bad for Gizelle, basically?
I was irritated.
I was too.
Her mom with her elective surgery.
That was like 15 minutes.
If it was so bad, ma'am, you didn't have to stay and play chickenish bingo, but you did. So, like, I think it's always the same thing. They pick and choose what they want to get mad about. And I'm just like, the same how it was the other episode when they try to make it seem like Candace and Wendy were talking crap about Grace. No, they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing. They do the same thing to one another. It's like, that's not what Gizelle did with your mom. And so for you, I don't think that she knew the extent of what was going on with Giselle's father, because I don't think Mia voiced that. I don't, at least not that I recall. I don't know that they knew the extent of what was going on with him. So I'm sure she's going to regret that she said that, especially since he ended up passing away, which also breaks my heart because I didn't know, and I just found out through this recap, and I feel so terrible because I know how much like her dad meant to her, and that's just like very, very devastating.
Cherry blossoms.
Cherry blossoms. I can't pretend it was a lingering concern for me, but I'm glad that the plaque around Karen's heart is no longer a concern. Now she is free to train her inner thighs to her heart's content, and I love that for her.
Mm-mm.
The pilot for Wendy's show looked well put together and engaging enough, so why isn't it available on her YouTube channel?
She has a channel?
Apparently. If she's only showing this piece to potential networks while depriving her current fan base, that's hustling backward. I understand that Wendy meant, or what Wendy meant about her resistance to engaging Gizelle on personal matters when she feels her struggles have been slighted, but her commentary did not land well. I wish she would have stuck to Candace's party line and just said it's more appropriate to wish her well from afar or in the group chat. Okay, so
she has 192 videos.
But not the show?
I think that there's just 11 episodes. It says here. I'm looking. You can continue.
Okay, next, Cherry Blossom. I know Mia and Gordon will have a blowout fight on camera about their relationship in next week's finale. They are. Okay, see, that I want to see. But I feel like the editing team has not done a good job of building up to this payoff. We have seen a lot of stilted but not malicious interactions in couples therapy and brief moments of Mia clearly over her husband's shenanigans here and there. Her informing the viewer that Gordon had recently drained her bank accounts to prevent her from leaving, a major violation of trust to say the very least, is a revelation that should have happened weeks earlier. Right now, all we see is her being tired of a doddering senior citizen who doesn't have enough money to properly retire yet, as opposed to the combative man she keeps hinting at. It doesn't make the ultimate fallout feel compelling.
True story.
Real quick though, how Delulu is Gordon when he said to her, I think we have the best relationship. I was like,
I mean, he's Delulu, but maybe he believes it. And then Mia's is the one making stuff up. Or he's in denial.
That's a river in Egypt. Okay, so Candace finally opened up on a topic she has been circling around for several seasons, her desire to be a mom and her fear that she missed her window. It's a relatable concern for Black millennial women with ambitions, and it is nice to lean into her emotions in a space that doesn't trigger outlandish reactions such as her maternal instinct. I wish her the best on her journey. That said, if she chooses to resume her IVF journey on camera, I am sincerely requesting that she doesn't do like Nneka and Ike and bring their mics into the arena as they are obtaining their semen samples. The
Oh,
shocked and horrified faces the camera crew made when they learned or when they heard the live audio playback. Whew. Okay, so real quick, I guess maybe I misinterpreted the way that scene played out with Candace. It still annoyed me because it was just like I said. There's the landscape right now isn't so great, and so I thought when the therapist talked about fear, I thought he talked about her just having a fear of being a mom, not necessarily a fear that she missed her window. So here in this article, that's how she's writing it out, that it was a fear of whether she missed her window. That's different. I can understand that. And that makes more sense than what it was that it sounded like to me before. Okay, final cherry blossom. This was probably one of the recaps with the most cherry blossoms. So the girls, save for NECA, are enlisted into a photo shoot for a local magazine where they invoke other Black legends. Candace is Diana Ross, already outdoing Lisa Rinna's frightful blackface cosplay. Giselle is inevitably Queen Bee. Karen is Lena Horne. Ashley is Dorothy Dandridge. Mia is Pam Grier. Wendy is Cheryl Lee Ralph. And Robin is Mariah. I don't have any comments on the photo shoot except that the styling for Mariah was an abomination. And
for
I
real.
rectified that immediately. Okay. So, any final thoughts? Any other thoughts on these cherry blossoms and everything that happened in the penultimate episode, apparently?
I mean, I guess the next episode is the last episode. I think overall, or maybe I should save it for next episode. I'll say it again. I think I'm overall disappointed in this season of Potomac. The Gordon Mia fallout divorce was poorly rolled out.
Yeah.
We see like the ins and outs of, not even the ins and outs, it's like they pick it up and then they drop it. The whole IVF journey
Yeah.
for Candace and NECA, because she spoke about it when episode 4, like when she was introduced, and
Yeah.
then we're at episode 17.
Right.
I think they didn't do a proper introduction of NECA. We saw she came in too hot, so hot that she fizzled out for the rest of the season.
Right.
The drums that is being carried on from past seasons is just bothersome to us fans at this point. It's like, come on, let's get over it. Let's find new drums, or let's get along. Let's do something. But we're just still like in this space of uncertainty and nastiness, and then everybody like that doesn't talk to each other. It's just a weird space. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of disappointed.
Well, I mean, yeah, same. I think that I'm very interested to like kind of hear how NECA really has been received by Potomac fans, because I can see some potential with her, and
I don't.
okay.
I mean, what has she done this episode? I mean, not this episode, this season.
Well,
Nothing.
I
All
think
she does is
so.
compliment people. It's like, oh, you look great in this blue dress. Oh, your hair is so nice. And da da da. Like, there's nothing about her.
But isn't that nice of her that she's
It,
actually polite?
it is, but there's nothing else. It's like she's trying so
Well,
hard to just like fit in and like not ruffle feathers, that she's not creating a storyline, or she's not establishing relationships, and like, I don't want to say enough, but maybe on screen we see her here and there, but she's not contributing to the show, in my opinion.
I think that's more a production issue, not necessarily like NECA's, because they could have easily dove into her business venture that was actually already established and, on its way to be something better.
Mm-hmm.
The production could have honed in on that. They didn't. And I feel like a lot of the season was wasted with the whole drama with Wendy, which was again unnecessary. I had hoped that when NECA had that one-on-one with Wendy and it didn't go well, that NECA would have had more capital to like just become the bigger person and rise above Wendy. But instead, I feel like production didn't do a good job of really bringing her into the fold. I think she's
Yeah.
made efforts. I think she um I don't want to say that she doesn't want to ruffle feathers. I think that she maybe just like a decent person, and maybe she's just genuinely complimenting people. But we're so used to the fakeness of all of these housewives that this seems outlandish and doesn't kind of fit in all that much. But I do think there could be potential there with her, especially because you get certain glimpse that she could definitely bring her own drama. I mean, the way she talks to her husband, like, man, calm down.
I don't like that either, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
done with it.
And and so then, as far as the season as a whole, which obviously we'll touch when we do the finale recap, yes, same, disappointed, and I've already given my picks of who needs to be axed. We'll see what happens.
Dun dun dun. All right, guys, that concludes today's episode. Let us know what you think of episode 17. Are you looking forward to what's the 18? I'm an accountant and can do math. Can you believe this? And I'm talking about Robin. Are you looking forward to episode 18? Do we care about Deborah? What do we think about all the business ventures that have come into fruition? Should we give kudos to Wendy? Do we follow her on YouTube? All these questions.
Should we?
Should we? Well, there's 11 episodes, so I might scan it a little bit and let y'all know.
Maybe we can give y'all a recap of her show.
Oh, Lord. We're done.
Okay.
If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, please share our video. We're trying to grow our community so your friends could be our friends, so we could all be friends. We also have social media, which Steve will tell you about.
We're on Instagram and TikTok at Hear Me Out DNE. So make sure you guys like, follow, share, and comment. We definitely enjoy reading y'all's comments. They're hilarious. Also, you can listen to our shows in podcast format on Spotify and YouTube podcasts. We will hopefully expand a little bit more soon to Apple Podcasts, but we'll tell y'all when that happens. Anyway, check us out.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.